All right, let me ask you something. How on earth do you hire 500 people in just 5 months with absolutely zero budget for a job that's, well, let's be honest, grueling and not very glamorous? Sounds impossible, right? Well, the Paris 2024 Olympics faced this exact mission, and this is the incredible story of how they pulled it off. They didn't just succeed. They basically rewrote the entire playbook on recruitment by turning every single one of their weaknesses into a massive strength.
So, the person leading this mission was a woman named Veronique, and her own words really just set the whole stage for us. She described herself as someone who, on paper, is exactly the kind of person most organizations underestimate. As a Black, plus-size, disabled, and neurodivergent woman with a career path that wasn't exactly a straight line, she knew what it was like to be overlooked. But here's the thing. It was precisely that unique perspective, that underestimated viewpoint, that gave her the superpower to see a solution nobody else could even imagine.
So, what exactly was this impossible mission? Well, we're not talking about recruiting star athletes or the big-name organizers. No, Veronique's job was to hire the people that nobody ever sees, but without whom the whole thing just grinds to a halt. She had to build the invisible engine that would power the entire Olympic Games. And believe me, the stakes could not have been higher. Her team was in charge of the entire transport function. I'm talking about moving 200,000 accredited people, athletes, officials, media, every single day. Veronique put it perfectly herself. If your 100-meter champion doesn't show up to the starting line, there's no race. If the judges can't get there, there's no event. If transport fails, the games don't just get a little messy, they literally stop, full stop.
Okay, so you've got these sky-high stakes, right? But the resources, totally rock bottom. The deck wasn't just stacked against her and her team. It felt like they were playing a completely different, unwinnable game. So let's break down exactly what they were facing.
Yep, you heard that right. Constraint number 1, zero budget for recruitment. Nothing. Nada. No money for big ad campaigns, no expensive branding consultants, no job postings on fancy websites. The thinking was, hey, it's the Olympics. People will be lining up to work for us. Well, that assumption turned out to be spectacularly wrong. And on top of having no money, the sheer scale of the task was just staggering. They needed to find and hire 500 people. 500. All for this one specific function, and all in just 5 months. I mean, that's a huge lift for any recruitment team, let alone a tiny one with literally zero resources. Okay, and what about the job they were actually trying to sell? Let's just say it was a tough pitch. Imagine trying to convince someone, hey, want to come work for us? The pay is low, there's no paid overtime, you'll be working 11-hour shifts, 6 days a week, probably on your feet in the brutal Paris summer heat. And perks? Oh no, you don't get guaranteed tickets to see any events. It was all of the pressure with none of the glamour. And just when you think it can't get any harder, let's throw a few more things on the pile. You've got total administrative chaos. We're talking some contracts not even showing up until the day people were supposed to start work. Then there was all this negative press swirling around the games. And the team tasked with solving all this? A tiny, pretty inexperienced group of just 4 people. 4, including Veronique. So this brings us to the million-dollar question, right? When you look at that laundry list of challenges, you have to wonder, who in their right mind would actually take one of these jobs? It was crystal clear that a normal, by-the-book recruitment strategy was completely, utterly doomed to fail. Faced with this impossible situation, Veronique knew that the traditional recruitment playbook was totally useless. So she didn't just ignore it. She threw it right out the window. And in its place, she built something new from the ground up. A whole new philosophy she called Heroes of the Shadows. The focus wasn't on filling roles, it was on finding heroes. And this line just perfectly lays out the difference. The traditional way, it's all about job titles and corporate jargon. The heroes approach, it was all about the mission. Instead of listing a bunch of required experience, they were radically honest about the challenges. Instead of trying to sell glamour and perks that weren't there, they looked for skills and values. It was about opening the door to everyone, not just filtering for the usual suspects. So the whole Heroes program really boiled down to 3 simple but super powerful principles. First, recruit by mission. You're not just offering a job, you're offering a chance to be indispensable, to be the invisible backbone of the Olympics. Second, be radically honest. Tell people upfront exactly how tough it's going to be. And third, reveal skills and values. Create a hiring process that shows you how people think, how they cooperate, and how they handle stress, not just what's on their resume.
And here's a fantastic example of that third principle in action. In the final interview, instead of grilling people about their past experience, they asked one key question. What are you most proud of in your life? Think about that. They wanted to understand who you were as a person, what drives you. It wasn't about finding the right qualifications on a piece of paper, it was about finding the right people.
So, the big question is, did this whole radical human-first approach actually work? Well, the results weren't just good, they were absolutely astonishing. And what's really amazing is the kind of team they managed to build.
Okay, just take a look at this. In the transport industry, which is traditionally very male-dominated, women usually make up less than 10% of the workforce. The team Veronique built? Over 50% women. And get this wasn't some targeted diversity initiative. It was just a natural outcome of recruiting for mission and character, instead of a job title.
And this quote really gets to the heart of why that happened. Around 90%, that's 9 out of 10 of the people they hired told them they would never have applied to a standard job ad for a transport role. They would have just scrolled right past it, thinking either they weren't qualified or that it sounded boring. By selling the mission, they tapped into a talent pool that no one else was even looking at.
You know, this story is so much more than just a cool anecdote about the Olympics. It's really a playbook for future games like Milan 2026 and LA 2028, sure, but honestly, it's for any organization out there that has to fill those tough, essential behind-the-scenes roles. So, lesson number 1 is simple but so powerful. Name the reality. Be radically honest. Stop trying to sugarcoat a difficult job. In fact, do the opposite. Make the challenge the core of your pitch. Recruit around what is hard but meaningful, because that's how you build real, lasting trust from day one.
Lesson 2, identify your real heroes of the shadows. Every single company has them, the people in those invisible but absolutely vital roles. It's time to stop treating those jobs as low status. You need to find those people, recognize how critical they are, and invest in them, because they are the true foundation of your success. All right, lesson 3 is all about opening the door. If your job descriptions are filled with jargon that only insiders understand, you are missing out on an enormous pool of incredible talent. Switching to mission-based communication breaks down those walls and sends an invitation to everyone who might have the right skills and values, not just the people with the right resume. Lesson 4 forces us to rethink what diversity really means. It is not some cosmetic metric or a box you have to check for HR. It's a genuine operational advantage. What they discovered in Paris is that teams with a wider range of life experiences and perspectives were just flat out more resilient and more stable when things got incredibly stressful. And finally, lesson number 5, which might be the most counterintuitive of all. Your constraints can actually be a design engine. That complete lack of a budget, it wasn't a roadblock. It was a catalyst. It forced the team to get creative, to be more personal, and ultimately to be more human. It became the very thing that sparked all this innovation. And I think Veronique herself sums it up perfectly. She's the first to say this wasn't some perfect, flawless model. It was a laboratory of real life. It had huge successes, and it had its share of scars. But what it is undeniable proof that another, more human way of recruiting isn't just some nice idea. It's possible. And it really, really works. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Who are the invisible heroes in your organization? And after hearing this story, how could you start reaching out to them, not to fill a job title, but to join a mission?